Here are 7 fatal mistakes most lifters don't know they are making. Before we get started, comment down below what has been a fatal lifting mistake that you've made in the past that you have now fixed. Number 1. Poor form. Now this is the whole foundation when it comes to proper lifting. If you understand how to do the proper form on exercises that you are doing, you can then decide what your goals are, the sets, the reps. Focus on your mind-muscle connection and targeting different muscle groups at different angles. Not only is form important for actually building muscle, but it is important for keeping you safe as well. For example, if you are deadlifting with a super rounded back, you are likely going to get hurt, which puts you out of the gym for even longer. There are plenty of videos, not only on this channel, but all throughout the internet that teaches you the proper form on exercises, so I heavily encourage you to go check out any videos on whatever exercises you are trying to learn. Number 2, neglecting recovery. This is a huge problem that many hardcore people still tend to have an issue with. Everyone wants to be go, 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 go until they physically are hurting or can't go any longer. However, it's important to keep in mind that more isn't always better. And I love showing this example just through the simple use of my hands as a visual. So when you are working out, when you are feeling that burn, when your muscles are sore and hurting, that is when they are torn down. They're at their weakest point. And if you keep pushing and keep go, 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 your muscles are going to keep breaking down instead of building back up. And when you are recovered from lifting, that is when they are fully built back up again. However, if you keep breaking them down over and over and over and you don't give them a sufficient amount of time to fully repair themselves, then it won't be very long until you are not going to be getting much bigger or much stronger. So if you have a long day at work and then you go to the gym and then you go hang out late at night and you only get 4 hours of sleep and you just constantly repeat that process over and over, this is going to significantly hinder your gains. Now, it is one thing to push yourself to the point of which you feel like you are starting to overtrain, but it is another to push through those signs and symptoms and willingly pushing yourself to overtrain. Now, I know it's very trendy nowadays and everyone wants to be that villain that's always grinding and is always in pain. But if you want to get serious about getting jacked or building muscle, then this is the wrong way to go about it. If you have found this video useful or if you're simply enjoying it, please be sure to drop a like down below. Number 3. Ignoring nutrition. I know some people say nutrition is 90% of the battle and lifting is 10%. I know others say it's more of an 80-20 split or even a 70-30 split. And to be honest, I don't know what the exact split really is just because everyone's genetics and environments are so different. But nutrition does play a super important role in not only how your body functions, but your ability to build muscle and lose fat. So one way to get your nutrition in check is by keeping track of your macros being carbs, proteins, and fats. And there are quite a few macro splits out there that seem to work overall for most people, kind of just depending on what your goal is. But a 40-30-30 split seems to be pretty good for most people. 40% being carbs, 30% being protein, and the other 30% being fats. Or for example, if you're trying to get lean, a 45-35-20 split works as well. 45% of your macros being protein, 35% being carbs, and 20% being fats. But of course, this can vary heavily just depending on what your specific goal is and what you are trying to do. But also keep in mind your calorie intake as well. By keeping the surplus or the deficit smaller, it means that although it might take a little longer to truly see these results, you are more likely to stick to these results. So for example, if I ask you, would you rather lose the weight really fast and then gain it all right back? Or would you rather lose the weight and keep it all forever? I'm pretty sure you would choose the one that benefits you for the rest of your life as opposed to maybe a month. That being said, it's important to be realistic as well. If you took 10 years to get fat, don't expect that you could just cut all of that off and get shredded within 1 year. It's a process and that's okay. It just takes time, just do what you gotta do. And as far as hydration goes, 3.7 liters for men and 2.7 liters for women seem to be a good target of how much water to drink per day. Number 4, a lack of consistency. Now, although this kind of plays hand in hand with nutrition and lifting, the last point was more focused on nutrition, so I'll make this point more focused on the lifting part of things. The absolute easiest way to build muscle and keep it on is simply by being consistent. Now, I know that's not any sort of fancy hack or trick, but but it is the most realistic and again, the simplest way to do so. Even if you don't have a specific programming or aren't pushing yourself super hard, you will build muscle up to a certain point. Now, of course, you'll plateau sooner and it will be much harder to grow by doing that same thing over and over. However, if you go hard for a month and then take the next month off and then go hard on the next month after that, you're just going to be yo-yoing a lot and it is much harder to see results this way. Number 5, excessive ego lifting. Now, ego lifting is when your ego is greater than the reality of your strength. This usually results in terrible and unsafe form, not getting results, and likely injuries. And that being said, this kind of goes back to that proper form point that I made earlier, because if you can't lift a weight with proper form, it is likely too heavy and it's time to drop it down a notch. It is very tough to get stronger or build muscle when you are just going into the gym and trying to max out on bench every single time you go in, and this may result in you hitting 1 rep or 2 reps or even 0 reps for that top set, that final set, which elicits little to no growth and does nothing for you. If you are doing this every single time you go into the gym, it's okay to accept that you need to build up to a certain weight and you don't need to try to match what your best friends are doing. So maybe drop the weight and build up to that goal every time you go into the gym instead of going in and trying to max out or hit that same goal weight every time. Now, this is something I actually speak from a lot of experience from, and when I learned how to truly dial back the weights and start building up to my goals, I ended up hitting more goals than I did when I was just trying to push the heavy weight all the time, or at least seeing some sort of result from it. Number 6, proper rest between sets. Now, this might heavily vary depending on what your goal is, but this can go either way. If you're training for strength, ideally you want to rest anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes in between sets, and if you are training for hypertrophy or muscle size, you ideally want to rest about 60 to 90 seconds in between sets. As far as muscular endurance goes, 30 seconds should be fine. But for the strength example, if you are trying to max out that day on bench and you are slowly building up to that 1 rep max, you want to give yourself time in between sets instead of just putting the weight on and trying to hit your set a minute after your previous one. That way your central nervous system can sort of get a light recharge going before it hits its next set. Now, as far as hypertrophy goes, this is probably a more popular one because some people tend to wait 5 minutes before going on to the next set as opposed to 60 to 90 seconds. And this is because they think they have to be 100% shaken out, recharged, they feel completely recovered before they go again. Now, this 60 to 90 second range allows you to keep a good amount of blood in the muscle, aka getting a solid pump, but also allowing your body to recover enough to hit this next set and still produce a good amount of metabolic stress and mechanical tension. Number 7, not listening to your body. Look, if you are constantly feeling exhausted and sore, that is probably a good sign that you need to chill out for a bit. And this goes right back to that point of neglecting recovery. It's important to pay attention to these warning signs because you want to continue to lift, right? If you choose to ignore these signs and symptoms, you are just going to end up injured and you're going to put yourself out of commission for an even longer time than if you just listened to your body and recovered in the first place. Now, on the other hand, if you are never feeling sore, if you are never feeling like you get a good pump, and you are not seeing results, you probably need to step it up a notch, or maybe even change some part of your programming. That being said, with diet, if your stomach is constantly hurting and you're eating fast food 5 times a week, you might want to find a way to try to either cut down on that fast food or incorporate more vegetables and whole food proteins into your diet. I mean, your body is smart. It understands what it likes and doesn't like, so I think listening to it would benefit you the most. So I encourage you to try to avoid these errors and realize that all great things take time. So be patient, be willing to learn, and be willing to put in the work. You are bound to see progress that way. With that being said, subscribe for more content like this, and here is the video YouTube thinks you'll like next, so be sure to check it out right here.